Hello, and welcome to Real Menopause Talk, a bonus episode that goes beyond the usual. My two guests today have different and yet familiar stories of perimenopause and menopause, and we talk about the seemingly never-ending list of symptoms we've experienced, which I have no doubt many of you can relate to. Why these two wonderful guests are together is for a unifying and common cause. Before I introduce them, I would like to say thank you to our sponsor, Cozy Earth, creators of super soft, smooth loungewear, socks, towels and bed linen, all of which may come in handy by the end of this episode. Go to cozyearth.com, use code MENOPAUSE for 35% off, and keep listening to find out why. So my lovely guests are Emily Barclay, founder of the Perimenopause Hub in the UK, and Loretta Dignan, founder and CEO of the Menopause Hub based in Ireland. Unbeknownst to many, Loretta's secret superpower is rollerblading, which I discovered in our post-interview chat. And Emily suggested that one of these days I should put together an episode of the outtakes and after chats, and maybe I will. In the meantime, I will let Emily and Loretta do the talking, as they both have a lot to say that you will absolutely want to hear. Loretta and Emily, it is fantastic to meet you. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I can't wait to hear all about what you're doing. First of all, would you like to introduce yourselves so that we know a little bit about you and what you're currently doing?
Hi, good evening. My name is Loretta Dignan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Menopause Hub. It's Ireland's first dedicated menopause clinic. We're a multidisciplinary menopause clinic, evidence-based. So we have, a team of psychologists, dietitian, nutritionist, women's health physio, sleep therapist, and we have a series of doctors, including a consultant gynecologist. And we have the wonderful Mr. Nick Panay, who might be known, or he's Professor Nick Panay now, known to people in the UK and internationally for his work in menopause. We also do a lot around advocacy with government, with media, and really anybody who wants to talk about menopause to try and destigmatize it. And we do a lot of training with workplaces and organizations around making their workplaces menopause friendly. And my background was about 30 years working in the corporate sector, in marketing, communications, branding, and all that kind of stuff. But it was my own experience of going through menopause when I was 49 that prompted me to set up the Menopause Hub. And really, I found the journey to be lonely, to be challenging and difficult to navigate. I didn't know what to believe, who to believe, conflicting information and so on. And when I spoke to more and more women, I realized that I wasn't alone. And that prompted me to say, look, I think I can do something to change this. I'd worked on the board of the Abbey Theatre, which is the National Theatre in Ireland, and worked as the chair of their Gender Equality Committee. And we had an issue around gender equality, particularly in playwrights and so on. And I saw the power of policy to make changes there. And I thought maybe I could do something in the world of menopause. I'd never heard the word perimenopause. Mm-hmm. So I missed all those symptoms that affected me during my 40s. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have probably saved myself about 8 years of suboptimal quality of life. And I really want to prevent other women going through the same thing, to be honest. So that's my story.
What were the standout symptoms for you, maybe retrospectively then, Loretta?
Well, during my 40s, because I only knew about hot flushes and no periods, and then I knew I'd be menopausal, I didn't know anything about the perimenopause. And when I look back in my 40s, I spent a lot of time on antibiotics for UTIs, urinary tract infections. I developed dry eye and ended up in the A&E, the accident and emergency department of our major eye hospital 3 times, and nobody mentioned menopause. I also had very bad headaches that I developed, and I also developed focal migraine, which I hadn't had before. For each of those, I was sent for independent treatment to various specialists. I went for a brain scan, I went to see an ophthalmologist, and nobody along the way said this could be perimenopause. And I was over 43, 44, and all the way up to 49. So, palpitations, aches and pains in my ankles. I mean, the list goes on. But just because I never had those hot flushes, I didn't even associate it with menopause, and nobody else did either.
I think we're still in that realm, and I'm delighted that we are making so many giant steps forward all around the world, and we still have a long way to go to make it something, to make the whole process, perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause, something that is recognized beyond the hero symptoms like hot flashes, and also something that we can talk about fluidly, comfortably, and easily. Emily, how about you?
So I run Perimenopause Hub. So randomly, Loretta and I have very similarly named businesses, although different sort of outlook on things. But mine came about, as is the usual story, because I stopped recognizing myself. I was 39. I'd been training for Ironman triathlons. I was the fittest I'd ever been. And suddenly I was exhausted and unable to function how I used to function, and angry, like the rage and something else. I was back and forth to the doctor, and I was told I was stressed. I just need to sleep better.
Because that's
brilliant.
easy.
Yeah, I figured that was easy. And apparently I should exercise more because training for Ironman isn't enough exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And after about 3.5 years of going back and forth, the doctor and I'd seen a lot of doctors in this time, but the doctor and I agreed it was one of two things. And either it was chronic fatigue or it was perimenopause. And I knew it wasn't chronic fatigue because it was different at different times in my cycle. It was very much linked to my hormones. And just getting that word perimenopause was like a weight lifted, frankly. And then I went home and had a bit of a Google around, as you shouldn't. And I was just trying to find some support and some information. And all the groups that I was finding were very much aimed at women who had reached menopause. And I was 42 by this point. And I'm like, well, I don't really belong there because I haven't got the hot flushes. I still have periods. I don't have grandkids. I don't have kids, but my peers don't have grandkids. I don't really belong there. I was then finding also groups where it was one specific practitioner saying, this is how we can manage your symptoms. And I thought, well, I'm not really ready for that. I want a choice. So I set up Perimenopause Hub to bring together experts around the globe across all different disciplines who help women. And so we cover anything ranging from sort of counselling through hypnotherapy, obviously medical people, that goes without saying, yoga for menopause, the whole gamut, so that anybody coming to the Perimenopause Hub knows that, well, they probably don't know when they first arrive, but they can access these different experts and start to feel like themselves again.
That is invaluable, because that, again, is something that certainly I've heard. I imagine all three of us and more have heard time and time again. It is that anxiety, the just not feeling like yourself, not knowing how to feel like yourself again, not knowing why. And if you know why, then you can take action and do something about it. But if you don't know why and you don't know what to do, you can't even begin to put yourself back together again. And often it can be simple. It might take some time, but it's simple steps to put in place to help us all piece our lives back together in the way that we choose to as well, which I'm finding quite exciting at the moment. Yes. The people who come to you at the moment, what do you hear most regularly? Emily, do you want to start this time?
What I hear most regularly is, oh my God, I'm not going mad. Thank goodness I found you. And that breaks my heart, because we shouldn't be feeling so alone for something that affects half the population. And it's just crazy. As you said earlier, Hattie, there is more conversation, but there isn't yet this full conversation. There isn't yet the full we all know that puberty happens and everybody expects it and everybody's ready for it. And I know parents go through pure hell when their kids are going through puberty. I'm very aware of that. And I know the kids go through pure hell when they go through puberty. But everybody knows it's happening. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it's coming. Everybody's ready for it. Menopause, exactly as Loretta said, there is still this perception that it's a couple of hot flashes and then you're done. And there's no mention of the anxiety. There's no mention of the brain fog. There's no mention of the horrific periods. There's no mention of the weight gain. There's no mention of the fatigue, the insomnia. I could go on for weeks. And so women are feeling like they are just losing the plot. And then they find, Facebook groups like mine, websites like mine, they find places like Loretta's and lots of others. And they go, oh my God, I'm not alone, finally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to say, I would agree with you on that completely, Emily. I mean, women say, I've got my old self back. And I can concur and I can relate with that. I've got my old self back. I'm not going mad. I don't have some fatal disease that has really concerned and worried me. And I wish I'd found you earlier because they've wasted time, money, resources, energy, quality of life, etc., etc. And I can relate to all that myself. And I think that's the key thing. The symptoms vary so much. I didn't experience anxiety the way I hear from other women. So I'm surprised, or I suppose overwhelmed by the amount of women that suffer with anxiety. And it's, as soon as you mention mood or anxiety, oh, let's give you antidepressants. So the number of women who come to us who've been prescribed antidepressants, some have taken them, some have refused to take them. Some say, there must be another cause. So I think women are putting their trust in people that they think that know, that don't always know, and being sent down various rabbit holes, which, as I said, I can relate to. I bought magnets that I put in my underwear for €35 in Boots. I don't know if you know many people who've used them. Some people swear by them. But the only thing that happened to me was when I went into the supermarket, so it was supposed to help with your hot flushes. When I went into the supermarket, the wire basket went boom, and the chain from the trolley, boom. And all I did was look around to make sure no one saw this. Did it help with my hot flushes? No. So, I've tried a lot of things that didn't work because there are a lot of things out there. But at the end of the day, I think what you're saying there is that women say, I'm glad I didn't suffer in silence any longer. I'm glad I sought help. I wish I'd known about this earlier, and I'm glad to have my old self back.
It feels very much at the moment to me that it is gaining pace, both in the UK and in Ireland and in America in particular. When you say it breaks your heart that people say they wish they'd met you sooner, yes, I completely understand that. It actually warms my heart because at least there are places like that.
Mm-hmm.
We need more, we need more. That's all there is. So how did you two meet?
We met via an absolute powerhouse of a woman called Michelle Smith. I think mountains would move for her. A couple of months ago, she got in touch with me saying, I think I want to organise a walk to raise awareness around menopause and to raise money for research and things. And I was like, yeah, cool, let's have a chat. And then I met her, on Zoom. I don't meet people in real life any longer. and I was blown away by how utterly focused she is. And she's brought Loretta on board. She's brought on Sally Ann from the Irish Menopause. She's brought together some various people in the States as well. And it's called Stride by Side. So the whole point of it is that we walk together to raise money and awareness for menopause. And that's how Loretta and I met. And it's a complete whirlwind. It's brilliant.
It's interesting because Emily's own journey is not Emily, sorry. Michelle's own journey is such. She is a very senior businesswoman in America, in New York, and she struggled to find any information for herself about her perimenopausal journey. And she ended up going to have a consultation or a talk or whatever virtually with Sally Ann Brady, who runs a support group online in Ireland called the Irish Menopause. And Sally Ann Brady does this voluntarily and has over 44,000 members. So imagine this, a US woman based in New York contacts a woman in Dublin to help with her menopause. Through that, she then was able to seek help in New York medically around her menopause or perimenopause. So she then became so, I suppose, frustrated, disappointed, couldn't believe it, that these were the lengths that she had to go to, and therefore decided she wanted to do something about it. So we're all here, technically, because we want to do something about this, about the lack of information, about the lack of awareness, about the lack of normalization of the conversation, about the taboo, about the secrecy, about all of those things. And that's what she did. So then she approached various different people and pulled us together to join her to create this event, which is going to be a global event, which is women, but it's not only confined to women, women and men and everybody and every gender in between, to move together, because it's not even confined to walking, but it's called Stride by Side, to fundraise and raise money from research into menopause health and what can help women in menopause. So the event takes place between October the 1st and October the 31st because it's Menopause Month, with the highlight being World Menopause Day on the 18th of October. The site goes live next week. And the goal, this is an ambitious goal, and we said, and she has said, let's dream big, is to raise $1 million. It's to fund two pieces of research. One is into women's brain health through the Women's Brain Initiative with Dr. Lisa Mosconi. So looking at the impact of lack of estrogen on women's brain health, particularly dementia, Alzheimer's, and so on. And then the second is a piece of research that we're going to do through the Menopause Hub, which is around testosterone and its effects for women. And we all know that there's evidence there around testosterone, around libido and sexual satisfaction, but there's only anecdotal evidence around the impact on energy levels, thought, clarity, competitiveness. And we're trying to see if we can create evidence around that. So all of this is about women globally who face the same issue, coming together, moving together to raise money for much needed research, because we all know that women's health research is usually at the end of the queue. And the plan is to walk 50,000 steps or 50,000 movements, shall we call it. So if you cycle or you swim or whatever the equivalent of steps is. And why 50,000? Because 50% of the population are women. The average age of menopause is 51. And 50,000 steps equates to a marathon, which is 23.67 miles. And so therefore it's a... Sorry, 23, well, whatever it is, 26.6 miles, 0.2, whatever. There you go. See, an athlete in our midst. And therefore those 50,000 steps equate to that. And that's really why the kind of magic number of 50 has been brought together. And so we're a team working together across boundaries, primarily through digital, as in, Zoom and so on, to create this. And I think it's absolutely fantastic.
And the whole event across the month of October is going to be virtual. So anybody anywhere in the world can log their movement. And on the website that goes live very soon, doesn't it?
Next week.
I believe it's the 7th of September.
Yes. Anybody who signs up to join in will just log their activity during the month of October. I think through the site and everything, we're going to be able to get stats of where people are and all the rest. So we're calling it Stride by Side because it's lovely when people walk side by side and they can have a much more open conversation than if they're face to face, which obviously is easier to talk about menopause when you're not feeling looked at. But it's also that regardless of where you are in the world, you can stride by side with the rest of us.
It is
Absolutely.
a wonderful concept and unifying across the world. And I've certainly found that talking about perimenopause and beyond is a very unifying conversation with the right people. Some people still, I think, are very anxious and shut down and move off swiftly. But we're hoping to change that. And I love the idea of stride by side and the fact that you can move together. I also am a massive fan, as I'm sure millions are, of both subjects. Brain health touches everybody in every way. And the conversations I've had with some even specialist doctors about testosterone for women, whilst I'm not a medical person in any way, I do feel they don't know what they're talking about. So research, so that we can all take it because we know the benefits. And actually, if you look in different arenas, for example, the bodybuilding world, then women will absolutely testify to the correct amount that puts you into optimal levels of testosterone, works wonders for clarity of thought, for energy, for the passion that you have for getting out of bed and getting on with life, and frankly, being happy around other people as well sometimes. So everybody wins. What are your energies going to be with regards to Stride by Side? Have you got plans yet?
I'll be walking dogs. That's literally, I have 5 dogs.
Wow.
And I have a dog walking business alongside doing the Perimenopause Hub. So I will just be walking dogs a lot.
Well, I also have a dog, but I've just the one, thank goodness. And I don't have another business connected to it. But walking the dog and also cycling. I actually love cycling. I just love the sense of freedom or whatever. But it doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair, if you're on walking sticks or crutches, if you want to swim, if you want to move around the house, you're doing housework, the dreaded housework, whatever it is, walking the grandchildren, walking children, it doesn't matter. Everything contributes to it. And it's the whole idea of getting out and moving. And we do know that, exercise is really important at this stage of our lives. I know our body shape is changing during perimenopause and menopause. And sometimes with the fatigue and the demotivation and the kind of flat mood, it's really hard to get yourself up and about and out there. And it's easier to sit down and, munch your way through and drink your way through, a few glass of wine and whatnot. So really, it's an opportunity, I suppose, to start moving together for a great cause. And, you can put teams together. We can make it competitive if we want. We can get people connecting with friends and families internationally. There's no boundaries. There's no borders. There's no limitations. Everybody can join in, and it doesn't have to be just women either.
Do you have any personal goals that you want to achieve from either reaching the financial goal or seeing research or the number of steps, anything that you hope will change?
For me, it's seeing the research come to fruition. I've been following Dr. Mosconi for a while, and I think what she's doing is frankly amazing. And I love what Loretta's talking about doing with the testosterone research, because it's all stuff that just needs to happen. And so for me, when we achieve the goal of getting the research done, then this has been a success.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I read a book called Invisible Women by Caroline Perez, whatever.
Caroline Criado Perez.
She went to
school with my brother, randomly.
What's that?
She went to school with my brother.
Oh my God. Anyway, her book is amazing. But in it, she talks about, the lack of data around women for all sorts of things in all areas of life. One of them in particular is around medicine. And, the lack of data around women in medicine. So a lot of the products, the drugs are tested on men. We know that when the cardiac arrest, so when there's a heart attack, the symptoms we all know are all male symptoms as opposed to female symptoms. Mm-hmm. So personally, I think there's just not enough research into women's health and so on. And, we are complicated beings due to the fluctuations in our hormones. So to my mind, the money is a means to an end, and the end is to get more information, to get more evidence-based information, to actually, drive on women's health. And really, it's to make changes, not just for this generation, because we're the last generation that's going to put up with this, I think, but also for the generations coming behind us. And I have a daughter who was going through puberty when I was going through menopause. And I just looked at her and went, oh my goodness, the journey you've got to go, girl. And then you get to menopause. And hopefully it won't be a mysterious tsunami that comes towards you. It will be something that you know about, you know how to deal with, that you're prepared for, much the way we are about puberty, and that society will know about that. So that's really what it is. It's sort of a gift from all of us, hopefully, to generations to come and to women globally.
Absolutely. I think you've summed it up perfectly. I, in a much more simple way, just don't want anyone to feel as bad as I did. And if we can, by getting the research sorted, if we can change that, if we can change that by raising the profile of menopause, then frankly, that's a win.
The fact that so many women have changed their careers in order to do something perimenopause, menopause related, so that nobody else feels as awful or as lost or as confused as we all have, again, is testament on its own to the fact that something needs to change. And I'm delighted that our generation is the one to move it forward. So I hope that this achieves all its goals. Any parting words?
My parting word is go to the landing page of Stride by Side, sign up, make a commitment, get your friends, family involved, join us and join the menopause revolution to make changes for ourselves and for women to come after.
And further to that, if you don't have the motivation, borrow a dog if you don't have one. The dog will take you out for a walk. You'll be fine.
Thank you very much for your time, your wisdom, your energy, your enthusiasm, and your commitment to doing the walk/movement that we will all be joining in.
Thank you for having us.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And now for the essential details. So the website you need to go to is stridebyside.org. That's stridebyside.org. Registration is open from the 7th of September 2022. So that means that registration is now open. Sign up. The donation required is $25, although if you wish and are able to contribute more, you may indeed do so and get your 50,000 steps in any way you choose during the month of October. I will leave more details in the show notes on Instagram and LinkedIn, including Emily's and Loretta's details as well, also on the website realmenopausetalk.com. Feel free to email me if you need anything additional. Get the word out about this worldwide walk. team up with friends, go for a swim, a dog walk, a yoga class, and see where it takes you. And if you need cozy loungewear for winding down afterwards, a towel for a soothing dry off after a bath, or bed linen to keep you cool and comfortable at night, then go to cozyearth.com and for 35% off, use the very appropriate code MENOPAUSE. Keep talking about the podcast, share with everyone you know, and stay tuned for more exciting upcoming events. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.